Welcome to the Uncover Your Eyes podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Meenal Agarwal. If you haven't already hit the follow or subscribe button, please do so. Let us know you're listening. It helps us bring you better episodes weekly. Today, we're going to talk about blue light. It's crazy because everyone is always talking about either it's so negative or it's positive. We need it or we don't need it. And I think we as a society are lost. I get this question every single day in practice, whether it's from a parent or whether it's just from an adult who wants to, help themselves. And a lot of times people will ask me, should I just get those, dummy ones off the internet so that I can protect myself or my children from their screens? By the end of this podcast, you will know my answer to that. But for now, let's talk about what is blue light and is it harmful? The biggest source of blue light actually comes from the sun. So we get most of our blue light from there. And its intensity is very high that comes from the sun. Blue light is the shortest wavelength of visible light. In the visible light spectrum, it is the shortest wavelength. Because it's the shortest wavelength, it also has the highest energy. So when you are looking at device or computer screen all day, you are not getting the same intensity as you would if you looked at the sun all day. Not all blue light is bad. So we actually need blue light. We need it to help regulate our circadian rhythm, our sleep cycle, our wake cycle. If we didn't, our body's internal clock wouldn't know what's happening. And then we would have all sorts of health issues. Our body needs to know when it's morning, when it's afternoon, when it's evening. And I am a fan of getting that morning sun blue light when you walk out in the morning. Even if you go for a 10-minute morning walk, I want you to get some of that blue light to enter your eye. The process is that when the blue light enters your eye, it hits your retinal photosensitive ganglion cells that have a pigment called melanopsin. And when that's triggered and absorbed by it, they send a signal to your brain, your hypothalamus, to start inhibiting or suppressing melatonin production. And so that process is inhibited or stopped and slowed down. So if you are getting a lot of blue light exposure in the evenings when you are looking at devices, that process is going to be suppressed. So you are not going to get that melatonin that's going to be your signal or your internal clock telling you to go to sleep. And this is why we tell people to stay away from devices in the evening. But in the morning, we want you to have that blue light to suppress the melatonin because we want your body to know it's awake. And so the form of blue light that comes from the sun in the mornings, getting that blue light for a bit of time is okay. It's why you don't want to be in your home cooped up from morning till night, not getting that outdoor sun. Your body doesn't know it's morning or night. Have you ever been at home in your pajamas all day and it's almost like, is it morning? Is it night? I don't even know what time it is. It's because your internal clock hasn't processed that and you need that. So my two kind of healthy balance amounts of blue light exposure are in the morning, get that 15 to 20 minutes taking a walk in the morning outside. And then in the evening, be off your devices for 1 to 2 hours before bed so that your body can process the fact that you need to go to sleep. But let's talk for a second now about disease process. There's a lot of chatter around, is it going to cause disease, the blue light being on the screens? Are we going to get macular degeneration or all sorts of other diseases? So firstly, I want to clear that a lot of the studies done on where we see retinal damage especially in the area of the retinal pigment epithelium or RPE layers, we see that damage with high intensity blue light all day on animals. So we have not seen this prominently in adult studies yet. And we don't get that intensity from a screen. So this is high intensity, almost similar to staring at a sun all day long, which we don't do. So, or hopefully we don't do. So you likely are not going to get that retinal oxidative damage being on your screen for the time that you are in the daytime, because that intensity is not strong enough. However, in theory, anything in excess, whether it's blue light or whether it's something else, is going to harm your retina. If you stared at the sun all day, you're going to get a lot of UV damage that's going to harm your eyes as well. So, everything in excess, there is a damage, but the intensity is the key that we have to focus on, that we are not getting from the devices, is likely not going to damage our retina. But never say never. So, if there means, you're on your device 24 hours, maybe let's cut it down to 18 hours so that it's a reasonable amount of time, or 12 hours or 10 hours, whatever's reasonable for you. Now, the process where we see in studies where there's damage in your retina is typically in the retinal pigment epithelium layer. Again, this is in animal models that animals that we're seeing a lot of these studies done on. And what we see is that the retinal pigment epithelium has pigmentation in it called lipofuscin. And when that absorbs the blue light, it creates a reactive oxygen species that starts to damage your cell membranes, your mitochondrial DNA, which we need for the ATP process, and all sorts of other things in the retinal pigment epithelium. This is really important. And so this is where there's atrophy in the area of the retina, and that's where we start seeing diseases like macular degeneration. So if you took those two kind of stories, one about more, is it going to cause disease, which again, if it's not high intensity all day, then likely not. And yes, even a little bit of blue light will help with your circadian rhythm in the morning, and even a little bit of blue light in the evening can ruin your circadian rhythm. Those are the two take home points. There was a study done on cataract surgery patients, and it showed cataract. So when you have a cataract, your lens inside the eye gets yellow, and it actually absorbs some of the blue light such that it doesn't go to the back of the eye. But it was interesting because after cataract surgery, it wasn't that these people developed, diseases, but it was that they actually had better sleep, because their body was able to recognize their wake cycle more, and then that regulated their circadian rhythm. So post cataract surgery, that dirty yellow lens was removed such that it was not absorbing the blue light, and the blue light actually passed their new lens and went to the back of the eye and regulated their circadian rhythm. So that was a really interesting study, that post cataract surgery, these patients were sleeping better, and that was one of the things that they reported. We also know that in the mornings, when you're supposed to suppress your melatonin, which is what the blue light does, we also see a change in cortisol, insulin resistance, all of those changes, but in a healthy pattern. But however, those that are exposed to a lot of blue light in the evenings, we are noticing, cortisol rises in the evening. We're seeing insulin resistance. So we know that it affects your mood and your metabolism when you are exposed to blue light when you really shouldn't be, especially in the evening time. So the key is the rhythm. You can be on your devices, but let's try to have that regular rhythm such that you're off in the evenings so that you can regulate your body's internal clock. So let's talk about the blue light glasses. That's the big question. Should we buy them, especially the ones just, off the internet? So let's go back to what blue light is. So blue light is in the shortest wavelength. It has the highest energy, so it tends to scatter, the most. When you are looking at a screen, you see a lot more scatter that you don't even recognize because your eye focuses through it because of the blue light. It has a lot of high energy. And this is why anecdotally patients will report digital eye strain, tiredness. Words are blurring into each other when I'm on a screen for a couple of hours. A lot of it could be this blue light and the high scatter. So if you are someone who either has to work long hours or is just, on your device a lot, and you need to kind of reduce that strain so that you can keep going, it's not a bad idea to try a pair of blue light glasses. However, if you're someone that is not affected and happy and, on your computer 8 hours, I'm not always someone that will force you to get these blue light glasses. If you are someone who has to work in the evenings, you have an evening shift and you finish at 9 p.m. and you just have to work, but you want to regulate your body's internal clock, then you might want to consider it such that you're filtering some of that blue light. What is important is the type of blue light glasses you're getting. So a lot of the cheaper ones don't filter a lot of it. So placebo maybe, but some of the better quality ones do filter 30 to 40% of the harmful blue light. So I would probably, if you get regular glasses, with prescription, a lot of the coatings that it comes with do filter a good amount of it. But a lot of these dummy glasses without prescription on the internet that are sold for very cheap or minimal don't filter enough. So just be careful with what you're getting. And also a lot of the demi glasses that you get out there have, a very low filtration rate, but then they don't have an anti-reflective coating. So yes, you're reducing the blue light scatter from screens, but then you're getting all the reflections from the screens that are also causing you strain. So the whole point was to reduce the digital eye strain, and you're kind of, it doesn't make sense because you're getting a different type of strain now through reflections. So for me, it's really important that you're just getting a proper pair of glasses with that blue light coating if you are going to invest in one. But do I think it's absolutely mandatory? No. Do I think it's going to prevent eye diseases in the future? Absolutely not. So it's not a game changer. It's not a deal breaker. So, think about it. And if you're already getting glasses and you're on a computer for 8 hours, there's no harm in adding it on. Anecdotally, some of my patients have said, yes, I experience, less strain with them on. I have a pair of blue light glasses. I don't wear them often. I think they're in the back somewhere there. But when I put them on, I don't notice a big difference, but I'm not someone who is sensitive to these things, and I don't generally get digital eye strain. So I don't know. Everybody is different, but I guess you can try it if you're working from home on a computer 8 hours a day. Another point that I want to make is, like, those with insomnia or sleeping issues, please ensure that you are, naturally off the devices. And that's your holistic way of helping your sleep versus just wearing blue light glasses. If you're not working and you're just scrolling on, Instagram, TikTok, and just scrolling on your phone, then I would rather you be away from your phone, because that is going to ruin your body's internal clock and also inhibit your sleep cycle. And just a little exposure to it can do that. Again, we don't need, a little is not going to cause an eye disease, but a little will mess up your body's clock. So a quick checklist is, not everybody needs blue light glasses. Blue light is not going to cause eye diseases, and a little bit of blue light is not harmful to your eyes and can help regulate your body's internal clock. So remember, our biology evolved knowing there's sunrise, there's sunset, and we need that. It didn't evolve knowing that there would be this endless scrolling on our phones and this disconnect from the natural world and the natural rhythm and cycle, wake sleep cycle of the world. Prioritize your light hygiene. Know that blue light can, especially if it's at the wrong timings, affect your metabolism, insulin resistance, your mood. It's not the villain, blue light, but it's knowing when you should and when you shouldn't be exposed to it, that is. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. If you want to catch more episodes of Uncover Your Eyes, make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. To learn more about me, follow me on Instagram at dr.Meenal Agarwal. Until next time, keep those eyes uncovered.